Hi, welcome to Fridays with Seniors. I'm Charie Ginete-Ilon and I'm standing in for Dr. Peter Legg. Today we'll talk about Fraud Watch. How do we help older adults from fraudsters? And we have with us today Shauna Lynde, branch manager of Coast Capital Savings Credit Union. Hi, Shauna.
Hi, thank you.
It's my pleasure to have you here with us today. And we also have with us the Chief Technology Officer of Site Technology, Dustin Cassar. Hi, Dustin. Welcome to Fridays with Seniors.
Hi, Sherry. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Of course. For both of you, why do you think seniors or older adults are always targeted by fraudsters? Shauna.
I think seniors are often targeted because they're perceived as having more savings, home equity, and good credit. I think fraudsters also exploit their trusting nature, their potential lack of familiarity with the digital security and online technology, and sometimes even a little bit of cognitive decline. I think many seniors grew up in an era where people are more trusting, where scammers can take advantage of that. I think additionally, loneliness can play a role. Some fraudsters use emotional manipulation to build trust before taking advantage and stealing from them.
How about from a technology perspective, Dustin? Why would you think seniors are often targeted by fraudsters?
Yeah, my answers are very similar to Shauna. It's that they're usually, at least in our experiences, is that they're less familiar with some of the technologies, especially when it comes to mobile and SMS scams or phishing scams that come by way of email. They can be easily targeted because of their familiarity with it. Very similar to what Shauna was saying. And then, and they're also, they tend to be more polite. There's some, they take those phone calls and, we're in an age where, when a phone call does come in, you would immediately assume, at least for the newer generation, you immediately assume it's going to be a scam. Whereas some of the older generation, phone calls is how you used to do all of your conversations. So that's some of it. And then, the big one is, of course, that they are an easy target, or what they would presume as an easy target, because they usually have pensions and savings that are targets for these scammers.
What would be some of the most common scams that seniors fall victim to today, Shauna?
I think we've all heard of the grandparent scam. That's been pretty prevalent in the media. But I think beyond that, we see, especially at this time of year, being tax time, the CRA and government scams. So fraudsters pretending to be from the Canada Revenue Agency, demanding payment for supposed back taxes and whatnot. A very common one that we see often is investment scams. So seniors looking for better returns or savings for their retirement or for their beneficiaries. They may be lured into fraudulent investment schemes. That's why it's so important to deal with licensed professionals before making those kind of decisions. I think tech support scams is a common one as well. I'm sure Dustin can speak more to that, but scammers pretending to be from Microsoft, Apple, or even their banks. Fraud department asking for remote access to computer, and then once they have remote access, then there's all sorts of dangerous things that can happen. Similar to that, there's online banking and phishing scams. So fraudsters send fake emails or text messages pretending to be from their bank or somewhere similar, asking for personal banking details, personal information. So I think a good reminder is to make sure that everybody's aware that banks will never ask for your PIN, password, or account details over the phone or online. That just isn't something that happens. One of the newer ones that we've seen is one targeting people's goodwill. So, for example, we have the fake Ukrainian soldier scam. So scammers pretending to be from the Ukraine, either soldiers or refugees from another country. They're reaching out through social media or even dating sites. They claim that they need financial help for medical expenses or to get refuge out of the country. And then they prey on seniors for their generosity, really. So I think it's so important for seniors to make sure that they're verifying donation requests through legitimate charities, not just online asks. Those are just some examples, but fraudsters are very creative, unfortunately.
I know, right? And you've mentioned phishing emails, fake texts, etc. So, Dustin, how can people recognize and avoid them?
I think it's, to be honest, it's really difficult to recognize and avoid them. I mean, the old age, make sure that you hover over a link, make sure that it's going to the correct site before you click the link. With the Chat GPT and all of these new AI tools, things like common grammar and issues of spelling is kind of no longer a problem. They're very well written. They look very carefully crafted. So it's really difficult to spot those red flags. So what we always say is just you would either go to the URL. So if Amazon sends you and says that your account has been locked, go to amazon.ca and log in. Don't click the link in the email. Go to your amazon.ca directly, then log in. And if your account is locked, you'll immediately get a pop-up saying that your account is locked, and it'll walk you through a true 1-800 number to call, which would be, of course, Amazon in this case. SMS, your bank will never send you a text message asking you to click a link to reset a password. Never. If they do, you of course ignore it, go to the bank, log in, and do whatever you need to do, whether you call the bank and say, I feel I've just received this SMS, is this true? And they'll very likely tell you that you've been sent a fake phishing email, or what we call smishing or SMS phishing. But one thing that I do want to bring up, and I think it's going to become worse, will be voice phishing. So vishing, that'll sound like your grandson or your granddaughter, and they'll be able to send from a private number or an anonymous number, or in some cases, they can actually send from the number of your grandchild. So always hang up the phone and call back. Call the number not the number that just called you. You want to call the number in your phone that you would have saved for your grandson or your granddaughter, or son or daughter, or whoever it is in your family that called you, because some of them are also able to now replicate the voice of the person that is pretending to call. So they're getting better and better, but it's always best to pick the phone back up and call the number directly that you know is a legitimate number.
Yeah, that's very dangerous. And it's good that you're saying that, right? Because some grandparents would immediately rush to help whoever is in need,
right,
like especially part of their family. Another point that I would like to say is that when I receive these phishing emails, I always look at the source, like who sent it, because they would say, for example, the email is from Site Technology, but the URL is not actually from Site Technology. So that's
right.
one way of knowing that it might be a scam. For Shauna, what steps do you think can seniors take to protect themselves from financial fraud?
Sure. I mean, I'll let Dustin speak to the technology portion of it, but I think the biggest one is pausing. So pausing before you pay or send money. So never rushing into sending money, even if somebody is pressuring you. There is no need to rush into anything. If it is a legitimate investment or a legitimate ask, then that is not something that is going to have a timeline. Verify. So if somebody claims to be a loved one, an official agency, a company, call, as Dustin said before, hang up, call the real organization using their official contact information, not the number provided in the phishing email or message or text or whatever it is. Again, financial institutions and CRA will never pressure you for immediate action or ask for passwords over the phone. That's an intimidation factor, and we do not do that, especially over the phone. Always go to your bank in person or hang up and call CRA directly. Keeping personal information personal and private. So never give out your social insurance number, your banking details, passwords to unsolicited callers or emails or text messages. So that's not something that anybody should be giving out over the phone or via email or text messages. Using strong passwords and two-factor authentication, so protecting your accounts with complex passwords and extra security layers. For example, most banking apps now have two-factor authentication, so they'll send you what's called an OTP, or a one-time password code, when you're entering your information. Every financial institution in Canada is regulated similarly to safeguard that kind of information. There is a card lock feature as well. So if you do suspect fraud, you can temporarily lock your debit card or credit card through online banking, through logging in on your own online banking or mobile banking, and you can pause it. So it doesn't cancel it forever. It will just lock it until you determine whether or not it's legitimate or not. Yeah. Staying informed is hugely important. So there's tons of fraud seminars, either through your local financial institution, community center, senior center. They're usually free. Well, they should be free. We put some on usually quarterly. You just have to go to our website. Similar, most financial institutions, the Justice Institute as well. The Seniors Association, I'm sure, puts on tons of free fraud seminars, things like this podcast, for example, keeping informed, just being aware. And I think my most important tip is trusting your gut. If it doesn't feel right, it's not right. If it sounds too good to be true, it likely is. So always talk to a trusted family member, friend, or financial advisor or branch manager before taking any steps or making any financial decisions that could have an impact on you.
That is very helpful, Shauna. Dustin, some people are hesitant about technology. What simple cybersecurity habits can they adopt to stay safe online?
I wanted to follow up with what Shauna was saying around passwords. And I think, I have parents that have this same challenge. And the problem with passwords is that they tend to use one and then they use that across all sites. So using a password manager is going to be incredibly important to make sure that that password is not the same across all sites. And you have a complex password. You don't have to remember it. The password manager will put that into the login username and password box. That's really helpful with making sure that your accounts don't get compromised, which means that somebody can now log in as you and potentially buy Amazon products or purchase Apple gift cards using your account that you've stored your credit cards on, which of course is fraud and a scam. So using those complex passwords, and the common pushback I get from my parents is, well, I'm going to forget it. Well, that's what that forget password button's for. Just forget your password. It'll go to your primary email account and then reset it. So, and it's probably even some good hygiene to do that on occasion, is just send yourself a password reset rather than having to try and dig through how to do that in some of these applications. It can be complex to find out how to change your password. So simply just say that you forgot it and reset it is a really good habit to get into. If you do get a notice from a legitimate company that says that your name has been compromised or has been breached, LastPass was a company that was recently breached, what you'll want to do is start changing those high priority accounts right away. These are going to be your bank, your financial institutions, any accounts that you may have stored passwords on. You'll want to change those first, and then work on one of the maybe the lower lower impact, if you will, accounts later. Do the high priority ones first. Malware, of course, on computers is still relevant, but it's not as prevalent. Account scams are where the people make money immediately. This is gift card scams and scams verbally. So although malware is still very prevalent, relevant, it's not as prevalent as it used to be, but it is still important to have an antivirus product and talk to a trusted colleague, if you will, or a peer, or even somebody at the credit union may be able to give some recommendations on what you can use. And then if you do get scammed, for anybody that's listening in the United States, you want to report that to the FTC. And then, of course, in Canada, it'll be the Canada Anti-Fraud Center. But you always want to talk to your bank right away, because they're going to start looking at your card. They're going to see recent purchases that are going to be coming up to be going through your financial, either your bank or your credit card. So you'll want to do that. And then if you do get scammed or you were targeted and you were able to thwart that attempt, your friends, let your friends know on your Facebooks and in your when you go to the community centers and you meet with friends and family, let them know of the ones that you're targeted. It doesn't hurt to keep telling people about this, and don't be embarrassed if you've been a target and you accidentally fell for it. Learn from that, and then talk to others about how they can avoid that happening to them.
Yeah. Shauna, what should someone do if they realize that they've been scammed? Are there ways to recover lost money?
Potentially, yes. So the most important thing, obviously, if you think that you've been frauded or scammed, then definitely log on and pause or freeze your debit card, credit card, things like that, whatever it is. Report it immediately. So not only to your financial institutions, but also to Equifax, a TransUnion, which are the crediting monitoring services in Canada, as well as the RCMP, VPD, whatever's in your jurisdiction. And as Dustin mentioned as well, report the fraud to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. They have a 1-800 number. They have a website. It's really important. But definitely go to your financial institution immediately, or call every financial institution has a call center, advice center, and report it immediately. And they can start the investigation and start taking the steps and potentially be able to recoup funds. The earlier it's reported, the better, definitely. But one thing I just wanted to touch on that Dustin mentioned about Facebook. So that's something that seniors should definitely do, is make sure that their profiles on social media are private. So it's really important because that way that they're aware of who has access to their information, to their photos, what they're sharing, because a lot of personal information can be garnered from social media, and the fraudsters will use that to their advantage to start building rapport and building trust with the seniors. So it's really important to keep your social media profiles private as well, because it's very surprising how much information can be garnered from that. Definitely check your credit reports. It's really important to be regularly monitoring not only your credit reports, but as well as your financial statements. So if you do online banking, log on regularly and make sure that the transactions all look legitimate and report any that don't immediately. Really unfortunate thing is that fraudsters sometimes will participate in something called recovery scams, where they'll pretend to be organizations to help you get your money back if they've frauded you and they know you frauded you. And then they'll charge you a fee, or they'll earn your trust and do it that way. So only trust your financial institution or the RCMP or the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center. Legitimate organizations. Nobody will ever charge you a fee to start an investigation into fraud. That's a huge red flag. One of the biggest things is that so many people feel shame and embarrassment around this. So I think seeking emotional support from trusted friends, family, don't be embarrassed. It's not your fault. So fraudsters prey on people, and they're very sophisticated nowadays with all the technology available in AI. So many super intelligent people fall victim to this. Even bank employees fall victim to this, and people who are well informed. So talking to friends, family, and support groups, seniors organizations can really help not only yourself, but also spread awareness for everybody else. It's really important. So I think my final advice would be, if something seems suspicious, always check. So check with your financial institution or the credit card company or whoever, or Canada Revenue Agency, whoever the suspicious party is. It's always better to ask and be safe than to regret it later.
That's right.
That.
Yeah.
Always better to be safe and better. Dustin, is there anything else that you'd like to add? What immediate steps should they take to minimize the damage if they have already been scammed?
I think I want to make one quick point on what Shauna was saying around social media. I think that was a really good thing to bring up. There's also fake profile scams as well, where the person that is not your grandson, granddaughter, friend that you know at the Bridge Club, they will send you a notice in MSN Messenger, in Facebook Messenger. I just aged myself. Facebook Messenger to notify you that, hey, I need $50 or I need this quick gift card. And they'll bait you and they'll work through that. That's a great point, Shauna. That I completely forgot about that. It's one of the terrible scams, and you think that it's the person that you normally talk to. Same profile picture, same name, everything. Facebook is trying to get better at that. But again, be very, very, very careful. Pick up the phone and talk to her or him that have messaged you and say, did you just message me on Facebook? Yeah, my account was hacked, or somebody's pretending to be me. But sorry I wanted to make sure I made that comment. I think that what I try and summarize, or at least try and think is kind of a really good advice to have, is that stay skeptical. Trust your gut is the way that Shauna had said it, and that totally makes sense. Don't ever rush into anything. If you're rushing into something, a decision that is, even if it's $50, $10, you likely, if you're being told that it needs to be urgent, it likely will be a scam. If you're in doubt, ask a friend, a colleague, someone around you, if this looks a little bit fishy, to make sure that you lean on your friends and colleagues for those types of questions. And like Shauna said, don't feel embarrassed by it. We all get this. Everybody is going to eventually, at one point in time, even though we're well trained, they get better and better. So I think that those are some really good advice. Thank you, Shauna, for that. Of course, stay safe out there. It's
Yeah. Can I just add one thing? So one thing that I've seen a little bit is that if somebody is telling you instructions, so if somebody has given you information on what to tell your financial institution, that is 100% in all likelihood a scam. There is no investment product out there that is going to need to be swept under the rug or kept secretive from your financial institution. So we've seen an increase in this, where people will come in to send a wire transfer, which may be out of the realm of their usual transactions, and they will have been given instructions. Oh, say it's for home renovations, or say it's for your friend with health issues, or something like that. So if somebody is giving you directions like that, that is an enormous red flag. So there should never be anything secretive about an investment product or a way to send money to somebody legitimate. There should never be some sort of false information that you should be giving out. And from a financial institution's perspective, we would never be upset if people come in and ask us questions and want us to verify something. We would 100% rather take the time to investigate before it happens than after. So we absolutely welcome questions, help, and support for seniors and for all members of any age to come in and ask us questions if they don't feel 100% secure about something.
That is great to know, Shauna. Finally, if there's one very important thing for older adults or for all people to remember to avoid being scammed, what would that be? Let's start with you, Dustin.
I think that the stay skeptical, that trust your gut is, I think, so important. We all get it. We know that this feels a little bit weird, but too good to be true. Anything that's free also on the internet, if we're not talking about scams and phishing, if it's free, you're usually the product. So you're giving something up, you're selling something to them, and you're giving them either some personal information that then could be used potentially later. So those would be the things that I'd say is that trust your gut online. It's no different than in person.
Thank you so much. Shauna?
Verify and confirm. So never be in a rush. There's nothing that you can't sleep on, and verify and take the time to confirm the legitimacy. It's always better to do that. If anything is on a time crunch or a timeline, chances are it's not legitimate, and always verify with the source or the perceived source.
Yeah, very helpful. Thank you so much, Shauna, Lynde, and Dustin Cassar. This has been a great conversation and a good tip for seniors to stay protected from fraudsters. So thank you so much for being here on Fridays with Seniors.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
And this podcast is brought to you by Coast Capital Savings and Senior Services Society of BC. I'm Charie Ginete-Ilon, sitting in for Dr. Peter Legge. Till next time, here on Fridays with Seniors. Don't forget, you can click that subscribe button so that you'll be notified each time Fridays with Seniors will have a new episode on the podcast. Thank you so much.